listening to Lagoon Radio.
Alright, good morning and welcome to the news update. Oh, sorry. I felt like reading the news I felt like I'm reading the news. Well, it's the newspaper review here on Lagoon Radio. My name is Taiwo Adiola Shabiulegbe, and of course I won't be doing this alone. I have Favor Onsechi right beside me. I have Abose Day in front of me, and Okpeyemi and Sammy. Yes. Good morning once again. You can like and follow us on Facebook at Lagoon Radio Nigeria, on Instagram at Lagoonradio.Ng. And you can also tell your family and friends to listen via our website on www.lagoonradio.ng for more info and entertainment here 24/7. In no particular order, I'll be starting with the New Telegraph newspaper. Fitch upgrades Lagos ratings to AAA, that's triple A. The story is right on page 8. Confirms its good standing resilience. Yeah, the story is on page 8. Kogi jailbreak, 100 rearrested, others return voluntarily. And the right under that says security forces on trail of escapes. Aregbe-Shola. The story is right on page 6 of the New Telegraph newspaper. COVID-19, I've got NAFDAC's approval for clinical trials. Iwu says. The story is right on page 4. Nigeria requires over $3 billion to boost power. The story is right on page 3. And at the very front page of the paper, IPOP stay at home. Southeast loses 10 billion naira each day, says Umahi. As gunmen disperse students writing WAEC. The story is right on page 3. And the right under that says teacher abducted, staff bikes burnt, Bants Boko under threat in Imo State. Well, all this you can find on page 3 of the New Telegraph. 2023, Igbo elders warn against plots to sabotage Southern presidency, vow to sanction betrayers, charges Southeast governors and on anti-open grazing law. Right on page 4 of the New Telegraph newspaper, the story is there. ASU set for another strike over pact default by federal government. The cries law founding for state varsities. SSANU tackles federal government over incessant labor strikes to resume negotiations with government. On page 3 of the New Telegraph, the story is there. And at the very bottom, it's a health story news. Study traffic noise increases dementia risk. Page 8 of the New Telegraph, you find it there. And at the very, very top of the paper, Tier 1 banks' assets rise to 39.93 trillion naira. Top lenders' worth put at 10.05 trillion naira. The story is on the front page, and you can continue reading on page 4 of the New Telegraph newspaper.
Right, with me, I have the National Economy newspaper. It says at the top of the page, Twitter suspension. Nigeria loses 247.61 billion naira in 100 days. You can read more on the story on page 4 of the National Economy newspaper. Now, at the middle of the page, Nigeria's oil production to remain stagnant into Q4 2021 as COVID-19 Delta variant clouds global demand prospects. You can read more on the story on page 4 of the National Economy newspaper. And at the bottom page, just below a picture, First Bank wins 2021 Bank of the Year award. And you can continue reading more on the story on page 4. Investors generate 732.91 billion naira from dividends in capital market. And you can read more on that story on page 5 of the National Economy newspaper. And that is all that I have with me.
At the top, we have terrorist bandits freed in Kogi jailbreak. Also, you can read that on page 5. Tales of agony as Yahoo student clock 19 days in captivity. You can find that on page 2. 32 APC chieftains jostle for sacked power minister seats. You can find that on page 4, I guess. Yep. And at the middle, I have how communication failure caused deadly attack on troops in Zamfara. Under it, we have bandits kill 9 Navy soldiers, two policemen. Also, telecom suspension costly, has no NSA clearance. Source: criminals bypass communication ban. Army chief to commanders: I won't take any excuse from you again. You can find that on page 5. Also, Anambra government leads protest against IPOB. You can find that on, I guess, page 8. Also, 4 die, other missing as flood ravaged Abuja estate. You can find that on page 16. Also, MTN Dangote 56 others pays 736 billion naira dividend in 2021. And at the bottom, we have NNPC allegations of manipulation take shine off historical profits. You can find that on page 23. Also, under it, we have nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide. Add management, and that's all for Daily Trust.
All right, thank you very much. We'll be moving on to the Blueprint newspaper. At the top of the paper, open grazing. Abdullahi Adamu slams El Rufai, Masari, and Autumn. The story is right on the front page, and you can continue reading on page 6. And right under it says, backs headers from free movement with cattle. Says rotational presidency lacks constitutional backing. 75 abducted Zamfara school children regain freedom. Regain freedom. We're talking about this 2 weeks ago. No, they're releasing them gradually, and I think every week they're releasing them. And I hope until
they are finished.
I pray.
I think they're doing it batch by batch.
Yes. It's in batches. Wow. But the story is right on page 6 also. We're mobilizing Interpol to track 266 escapees, federal government. And the right under that says, gunmen used explosives, killed soldier, 2 cops, and 2 others missing. I think it's the same story on the previous paper we read. But the story is right on page. Well, I think that's the major story on the front page. And gunmen killed 12, injured 2 in Zango, Qatar villages, El Rufai months. The right under that it says a group raises the alarm over protests to bring Nigeria down. You can find the story on pages 5 and 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. Anambra 2021. Put your houses in order, INEC tells political parties. Right on page 5 of the Blueprint newspaper. Gunmen abducted PDP chieftain, driver in Edo, and 4 others in Ado Ekiti. The story is right on pages 5 and pages 9 of the Blueprint newspaper. The congestion. Kanu converts non-approved land structures to mega schools. The story is on page 7 of the Blueprint newspaper. And finally, APC fixes state congress for October 2nd. Page 5 of the Blueprint newspaper. The story is right there.
On the Daily Independent newspaper, at the very top of the page, gunmen attack Kogi prisons, kill policeman, soldier, free 224 inmates. And the rider under that says federal government puts Interpol on notice to capture fleeing inmates. Security agencies, stakeholders working to unmask perpetrators. My question is, how will they recognize these inmates that are gone? Do they have documents? Is there any documentation of their faces? Do they do this mock shot? You know, in movies when they arrest somebody, they have this picture they always take of them. Do they have mock shot? Do they have their documents? How are they planning to recognize them?
Their biodata.
Or are they just planning to go into the street and anybody that looks like a criminal they take? I hope not. You can find more on the story on you forgive me. The pages are very, very tiny. But beside that, bandits invade military base in Zamfara, kill 12. And you can find more on the story on page 20 of the Daily Independent newspaper. At the very middle of the page, despite headwinds, Despite headwinds, insurance premium may hit 1 trillion naira in 2021. I think that is a business story, and you can continue more on page, looks like 25. Then at the bottom pages, I'm loyal to Obaseki, but there are issues in Edo PDP, Deputy Governor says, and you can read more on that story on page 6 of the newspaper. Conduct of politicians, judges, lawyers, worrisome, NBA laments. You can read more on that story also on page 6. And on insecurity, Chief of Army Staff warns commanders against excuses. And you can read more on that story on page 7. COVID-19 has come to stay. We must live with it, says the federal government. That is a very shocking revelation.
It's the headline for me.
Yes, the headline for me. Federal government says COVID-19 has come to stay and we must live with
Who
it.
lives with a disease?
I don't understand. Do
No.
they mean that there is nothing?
I was listening to a newspaper review this morning on radio, and the presenter was actually talking about headlines. Like, the way you put your headlines together really matters a lot.
Yeah, because this doesn't look encouraging. Doesn't look encouraging at all.
You're trying to make your headline catchy, and at the same time, you're passing the wrong message.
In the wrong way, and
Yes.
it's bringing the wrong kind of emotion from we that are reading it. So the writer under that, however, says vaccine delivery will hit 52 million doses by, I think Q2 means second quarter 2022.
Yeah, second quarter.
And appeals to striking doctors to suspend action.
Have they done what
They should do.
I expected to
They should resume with hungry stomachs, or what exactly does the federal government mean? But you can read more on that story on something that looks like page 25. But if it isn't, forgive me.
It's quite tiny.
At the bottom pages, Fitch upgrades Lagos ratings to AAA, AAA, attests to its good standing and resilience. You can read more on that story on page 7. Flood kills 4, sweeps 26 vehicles, destroys 166 houses in Abuja. It's the statistics from me, Shab. The statistics are shocking. 26 vehicles, kills 4, 166 houses in Abuja. And this makes me wonder...
Is it a
flood in
it must be a
Abuja?
rural area.
I think, yes, in Lugbe. It's in Lugbe in Abuja. And now you wonder how these houses were built. The people who made these houses, the contractors, did they not think that there will be a time when flood will come, and the foundations that they have laid will not be enough to keep those houses standing?
And I don't want to believe they are mud houses.
I don't think they are mud houses. Some mud houses will even survive.
Yes,
flood.
of course.
Some mud houses are better than the, I don't want to say stupid things that they are doing now. But you can read more on that story on page 2. And lastly, Abia government devises measures to stop sit-at-home compliance. And the writer under that says, Enugu residents lament sit-at-home. You can read more on that story on page 7 of the newspaper.
Thank you very much, Favor. Well, quickly on the Nigerian Tribune, because of our time, bandits set House of Zamfara speaker ablaze. Page 8. Lagos records 25 COVID-19 related deaths, 401 infections in 3 days. And right under that says, pregnant woman, 15 others die in Edo State. Page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. Over 7,000 nurses leave Nigeria for greener pastures yearly. Registrar. Page 3. Wait, what do you expect?
What do you expect? To suffer in
The
this
pasture
life?
is not even green in Nigeria. We're just praying to God and we're living under grace.
Yes.
And we're hoping that things get better. Well, page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune, the story is right there. APC reschedules State Congress for October 2. Page 23 of the Nigerian Tribune. Akintoye's group wants world leaders to declare Miyetti Allah terrorist group. You can get the story on page 2. First Bank wins Private Bank of the Year award. Congratulations to them.
Congratulations.
Page 6 of the Nigerian Tribune. And at the very front page, Kogi prison attack. It's like it's stopping the...
This news is
Yeah.
everywhere. And it's paining me because that's my state.
It's true, really? Gunmen kill
We are
police.
trending for the wrong reasons. Oh.
Really? Like, so far, you've not heard anything good about that state. Of course you have.
For the past 2 days, this has been the headline that I've been hearing.
That's what's trending now in
That's
your
what is
state.
trending.
Live with it. Yeah, it has come and you have to live with it. Just as the federal government has said. Gunmen kill policeman. Soldier free 266 inmates. Federal government alert Interpol. Well, the story is right on page 26. Gas explosion rocks UNN hostels. 2 students were injured. 27 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Anambra governor moves to banks market to stop IPOB sit-at-home order. The story is right on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune. EFCC arrests 114 for oil bunkering, internet fraud in Rivers, Ogun, and Edo State. Page 28 of the Nigerian Tribune. Gunmen attack travelers in Ekiti, abduct 4, kill 12 in Kaduna village. Page 26 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. 75 abducted Zamfara students freed. Page 8. Flood ravages Abuja estate, kills 4, destroys cars, houses. Now I get it. Estate.
Okay, it's an estate.
So now I'm wondering
Imagine.
if it can happen in an estate.
What
Say,
about
what's
normal residential areas, those that are by the roadside?
I believe that it depends on the foundation and everything.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Why do these contractors find joy in doing mediocre things like this? This is wrong.
They're after money. That's what they're after.
See, Shab, I don't know if he's allowed to say on air, but if I was ever the president of this country, some people will suffer.
Of course, some of us are suffering and some of us are enjoying.
No, the people who should suffer will suffer. That's
sure?
what will happen when I'm the president.
It's not. It's
Vote
not
for me,
easy,
2050.
favor. It's easier said until you
I know
get
it's easier
there,
said than done.
that you pray you're not being manipulated or pushed
Not
to
being
do what you're not
compromised.
meant to do. Yes, it's not that easy because you're not doing it alone. You need people.
Yeah, you have people around.
And I guess it's the people that surround you that determine your
That will
governance.
influence your judgment.
Yes. So the story is right on page 27 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Quickly, I'm going to take the leadership newspaper because of our time. Again, you want to take it? Okay, help
Let
us.
me take this day. Quickly, on this day newspaper, OPEC increases 2022 global oil demand forecast by 1 mbpd. You can continue more on the story on page 10. Debt service gulps 11.679 trillion naira in 5 years. You can read more on the story on page 5. Kaba prison break. Security recaptures 99 inmates. Over 150 remanded criminals still at large. Soldier, policeman killed during escape. Army chief to war commander. Sorry, you can read more on that story on page 10. And at the middle of the page, Army chief to war commanders. I won't accept any more excuses over attacks. And the rider under that says officers must take initiative, decisive action to defeat threats. Maintains failure is failure, irrespective of the circumstance. And at the middle page, appeal court president pleads with federal government to review judges' salaries. Page 10 of the newspaper. And that is all we have on the This Day newspaper.
Okay, quickly, I want Bosse to take a few stories on the leadership newspaper and then we call it a day.
Okay, on the leadership newspaper, at the top of it, we have planned strike. FJ can pay 40 billion naira revitalization fund. ASU insists. Also, we have VAT battles shift to NASS as lawmakers resume today. And under that, we have my opposes collection by states. Some governor behaving like foreigners. ACF scribe. Fair grips FIR tax consultants. And we can find that on page 4 of the leadership newspaper. Also, we have APC Old State Congresses October 2nd. You can find that on page 9. Also, we have Kwara approves 100 hectares for farm estates. We can find that on page 11. Frontiers Oil chairman Odiliyi Lolomari dies at age 87. You can find that also on page 11. We didn't defraud federal government of 540 million naira. Resident doctors. Also, doctor abducted Zamfara students regain freedom. 7 abducted Zamfara students regain freedom. You can find that on page 4. 204 criminals on the loose after government attack Kogi prison. Kill soldier, policemen. You can find that on page 8, and that's all for the leadership newspaper.
Thank you very much for being a part of the newspaper review here on Lagoon Radio, your number one online gospel radio station, powered by the Diocese of Lagos Anglican Communion. It comes up every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. here. You can like and follow us on Facebook at Lagoon Radio Nigeria, on Instagram at Lagoonradio.Ng. For more news updates, you can also log on to Lagoon.News to catch up with all the news stories there. My name is Taiwa Diola Shabiligbe, and I want to say a very big thank you to Favor Onsachi, Bossede Adefioye, and of course Okpeyemi and Sammy. Thank you very much. Tomorrow's going to be another edition of the newspaper review. You don't want to miss it. Good morning once again, and have a lovely day.
You are listening to Lagoon Radio.